Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will today deliver his maiden budget speech with the expectation that he needs to strike a balance between needs and feasibility. Godongwana will do this amid the continued economic impact of COVID-19, issues around the funding of struggling SOEs, and providing measures to capitalise on positive economic activity. And of course, as usual, we have our team on the ground ready for this day. Newzroom Afrika's business editor, Xolani Mbanjwa, is in Cape Town alongside our reporters, Athi, Mtongana. Tumisang, Ndlovu is at the JSE in Sandton for us. Xolani, let's begin with you this morning. The President alluded to some of the measures that hopefully Enoch Godongwana will talk to, specifically insofar as relief for the poor is concerned. We already know that the 350 Rand grant has been extended to next year, March 2023. What else can we expect from the Minister today in terms of the poor?
Good morning, Michelle, and thank you very much for that introduction, which actually touches on some of the important things that Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will have to navigate as he delivers his maiden full national budget speech today at 2 p.m. We've already touched on the basic income grant being something that has been topical, and through that we know now through the State of the Nation address that the President did say that he is going to extend that 350 Rand distress grant, and that is an important one. How much is it going to cost the national fiscus, and can we extend it to longer than just 1 year? That's the big question when it comes to grants, and one of the issues being the basic income grant. There are going to be this morning a lot of marches that are headed to the steps of Parliament to call for a basic income grant. Can we afford it? That is a very big question. Another big question is that he will have to exactly strike that balance between needs and wants, and that's where we saw in the midterm budget, which was the first time that we actually saw the minister in action. There was some consolidation of the budget. He was pulling those strings, making sure that they remain tighter. So we do expect him to continue in that trajectory and actually continue with his promise to say that state-owned entities that are not pulling their weight are no longer going to get support from the government. There are, of course, other issues when it comes to giving confidence to the investor community. That is very important, and as we heard from the State of the Nation address, the President did say that there's going to be a new office in the presidency headed by Sipho Nkosi, the chairman of SASOL, to get rid of red tape for small businesses. And for the first time, we did hear an acknowledgement from the President saying that, in fact, big business, and business in particular, are the ones who are actually going to put a dent on unemployment, which currently sits at 34.9%. When it comes to the narrow definition, the broad definition sitting at 46.6%. Those are just some of the big issues that he has to navigate, but it's a very, very tight rope for him this afternoon. Many are expecting that it won't have much difference to the midterm budget in November.
Yeah, and ratings agencies as well, Xolani, will be keeping a very close eye on what the Minister has to say today, specifically insofar as South Africa's pledges to fight corruption are concerned.
That is true, and we have actually seen many ratings agencies congratulating South Africa on their efforts to fight corruption, and now it's actually something that people are waiting to see how it's going to move forward when it comes to state capture, whether the National Prosecuting Authority is going to act, when is it going to act. But we've seen some of the reports that have been released, so there is a lot lot that is riding on what happens from now on regarding the State Capture Commission and those investigations. But you touched on ratings agencies. Yes, they have given many warnings. First one, they want to see real action, Michelle, when it comes to the structural reforms. The President did allude to the fact that there has been a lot of work done when it comes to structural reforms to make the environment conducive for growth and make sure that we actually cater for employment to be thriving in this country. So there is going to be a lot of eyes watching, including ratings agencies, whom we are going to catch up with here on Newzroom Afrika after the speech.
Our business editor, Xolani Mbanjwa, on the steps of Parliament, sort of in the precinct there ahead of the budget speech later on today. Let's take you now to Athi Mtongana, who joins us from the South African Social Security Agency's offices in Cape Town. And Athi, this is an important location for us today as we build up to the budget speech, especially given what Xolani has just outlined insofar as what the minister will say in terms of relief for the poor.
Relief for the poor is something big for a country like South Africa, given the level of poverty and the level of unemployment generally in this country, Michelle. And I mean, over 27 million South Africans depend on social grants. That accounts for about 46% of the country's population, and they are waiting with bated breath on what the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, will say in as far as relief is concerned, particularly for those who receive social grants from the government. Now, I want to bring in some of the people here who are standing in line and just waiting to go inside the SASSA office here in Bellville. Michelle, I've been speaking to them and they were expressing to me what they're hoping the Minister of Finance will say this afternoon. Menio, what are you hoping the Minister will say about the social grants this afternoon?
What do you say?
What are you hoping he's going to say?
You must live up, you must give us better money, because the money we get is too little for us. We didn't work, we got children, we must support our children, we must buy groceries, and we must buy something for us. In the end of the day, the money is too little. You must give us better money, is that, man?
All right, thank you so much. Well, Michelle, you heard it, an increase to some of the social grants. You may recall the extension of that 350, but the majority of the people that are here are people who are here for their disability grant. As you can see, they've been given chairs to stand in line to wait for the time when they go inside to receive their social grants. I just want to mention then, Michelle, quickly as I wrap up, what the Democratic Alliance announced a few days ago, just ahead of today, where they presented their alternative budget speech and statement. And one thing that is very interesting about what the DA has said is that, yes, they do obviously support basic income grant, but they say that as the DA, they have budgeted an additional 105 billion rand over the next 3 years. And this is, of course, a quotation from their statement. They said that the grant would be made available on the understanding that it would only be provided when revenue generated from the GDP growth is available. It would be funded from, and it wouldn't be funded from additional tax. So that's quite an interesting way to look at basic income grant and how South Africans who are particularly poor would be supported. This particular element that the DA has highlighted, saying that it would also be dependent on the money that is generated from the GDP. I'll leave it there, Michelle, for now. Back to you in studio.
Athi, live to us there at the SASSA offices in Bellville in Cape Town. Already a hive of activity there. People obviously keeping a close eye on what the minister will say today. From Cape Town, let's take you to Johannesburg now. Tumisang Ndlovu is at the JSE in Sandton for us today. Tumisang, What is expected in today's activity? And in terms of the sentiment around the minister having to strike that very difficult balance between feasibility and what we want to do in our country, what do you reckon will be the reaction from the markets?
Well, analysts have already indicated that there's quite a bit of positive sentiment ahead of the finance minister's address today, solely because South Africa has seen some positive economic gains, but at the same time, when we look at the reaction that's expected from the local bourse, being the JSE, is that usually it's a wait-and-see type of scenario, modest activity, at least until post the minister's address. All eyes, as the media would often say, and we say that today, that they will be on the finance minister, because it's a tricky balance, really, and that one speaks particularly to ensuring that the social side of relief is met, but at the same time, that fiscal stability that is needed by the business community, and it usually translates onto activity on the JSE where we are. When the local bourse opens later this morning, after yesterday's positive close at above 75,000 points, the expectation really is of positivity, but the devil will be in the detail, as analysts have also said, around what the minister is exactly going to juggle in terms of the balls that deal with how South Africa funds, particularly what you've just touched on, Michelle, with Athi talking about South Africa funding that social relief distress fund for another year. The estimation around that is that it would cost around 35 billion rand, at least for this year, and we know that civil society has already called for even a longevity in terms of South Africa making reservations for accommodating this particular stance. But we'll have rolling coverage much later on much more that is expected from the finance minister.
Yes, we will indeed. Tumisang and Ndlovu live to us there from the JSE in Johannesburg. Of course, the rest of our team out in Cape Town. Our business editor, Xolani Mbanjwa, in Parliament for us there, and Athi Mtongana outside SASSA's offices in Ndlovu.
Yeah, plenty to look forward to. 2 o'clock is the start time, and of course, catch it live right here on Newzroom Afrika, channel 405.